Here's how to make your foundation last all day. Welcome to everyone watching today. Thank you so very much for joining me. Today I'm going to be doing a similar video to what I did in January. Then I showed you how I get my eyeshadow to last all day. And on that video I got the question, can you also show this for your skin? So that's what we're doing today. I have a brand new foundation to test out. This is going to be a first impression. I haven't even swatched it. It's the Maybelline Lifter Plump and Glow in shade 90. And I have the matching concealer in shade, I think it was 25? Yes, shade 25. So that's what we're going to be playing around with. I already did my skincare routine, and that's actually going to be my first tip. So roll the clip of what I've done skincare-wise before I sat down to do my makeup, because your skincare routine in the morning is about as important as the makeup. So the main takeaway of the skincare routine you've just seen is actually something that's really difficult to film, and that is to let it sit. So it's not just about the products. Yes, step one is to find products that match your skin type and that are good for you. But I think the most important tip I can share with you to make your makeup last longer is to make sure your skincare has time to sink in. Don't just apply every single step right after another and have no rest in between. And also, before you sit down to do your makeup, make sure there's a good 5 to 10 minutes before you've last applied something to your face skincare wise before you do your makeup. I think that's the most important takeaway that I can give to you. What I personally like to do is that I do a couple of steps in my skincare routine, brush my teeth, do another step in my skincare routine, get dressed, do another step in my skincare routine, finish getting dressed and getting ready, and then I sit down and do what I need to do, you could say. So it's a good 15 to 20 minutes from the moment I started doing my skincare routine to the moment I'm sitting down to do my makeup. I've worked that into my routine to make it easier, but if you have the time and patience to just do your skincare routine and sit there for 10 minutes, I don't personally in the morning, then that can be a solution as well. But I just like to break it into sections, and that way my skincare has a little bit of time to sink in after every single step, and that way it's all absorbed by the time I get to primer. Now, I don't really believe in primer. It took me years to get onto the primer train. I'm mainly adding it for glow. So I like glowy, dewy primers. I think that if you have very oily skin and you have a very mattifying or pore-filling primer, that can add a step that can be useful, but it really depends on your skin type whether you need any sort of primer at all. I feel that most of what you can achieve with a primer, you can probably achieve with your skincare. If your base isn't prepped, your makeup isn't going to look good. That's the way that I like to think about it. I just like something that's very thin, lightweight, adds glow, because I feel the glowier the better. That's the way I live my life. So that's why I like to use my MAC Strobe Cream. This is just what happens to be in my makeup routine at the second. When it comes to primers, I'm not too fussy with them. Like I said, they're not my most important step. I can skip this very easily and still have great looking makeup all day. I just rub it between my hands and I apply it as I would a moisturizer. So the thinnest of thin layers, just to add that first step. And I like, for like even primer wise, because I do have dry, dehydrated skin. So for me, everything is about the moisture. I need my skin to be as hydrated as I possibly can. So that's why I like these lotiony, thinner things that feel more hydrating and almost like a moisturizer on the skin. But also this step, I would recommend if you do one, to give it a little bit of time to sink in before you go on to foundation. Some people like to do their eye makeup first. I'm not a huge fan of doing that because eye makeup is the one thing that if I don't have a lot of time in the morning, I can easily skip. So I just go in with a lip balm. And then I also like to use an eyeshadow primer at the start of my makeup routine because this also needs a little bit of time to marinate for it to really, really work. So especially with some products, it's actually good to just give them a minute or two, you know, to really have them do its best performance also in your makeup routine. So now we're moving into this foundation. I'm a little bit nervous because I've never used it before, but I was like, you know what, that's a good test because that shows you that even if I have a foundation I've never played with before and it lasts all day, that the techniques I'm using, that they're working, because it doesn't matter what I put on my face. Is it a really thin, lightweight cushion foundation? Is it a BB cream? Is it something richer? Is it something with medium coverage or light coverage? I do these steps every single day, regardless of the products I'm using, and it works every single time. So now it's time for the foundation. So like I said, Maybelline Lifter Plump and Glow in shade 90. So let me see whether this shade is any good for me. Ooh, it does look like a really nice shade. Here is it pumped out on the back of my hand. So one of the things that I like to do, I know that on social media you see a lot of people like taking the pump and like pumping foundation straight onto their face. That's a visual hook. It has no benefit to your makeup application. In fact, it can make your makeup look worse because you end up with a lot of product in one place that you then need to blend out, and that could ruin your makeup. So I like to go from the back of my hand. You can do this with the back of a brush. You can do this with a makeup spatula, whatever it is you want to do. I just use fingers because that's a free tool that we hopefully all have. And I just take a little bit on the back of my hand and I dab it onto my face. And what I like to do is that I try to apply as thin and even of a layer as I can, just using fingers. So I don't use a brush, I don't use a beauty blender just yet, because I want this first to be on my face. Ooh, that's very light actually, but can you see, like, I'm not blending it totally yet, because we're going to save that for a second. You can see my neck, it matches. My face is darker than my neck, which is always fun, because sometimes even if I go into store to get matched, people make that mistake of seeing that this is darker than this, and they actually match me to shades that are too dark for that reason. And I don't have much of a jawline, so getting a good shade match for me is really important, because else you really see that line of where the makeup stops, because there's just not a line from my jaw naturally. All right, so this foundation feels really, really nice, like it's a thicker, almost creamy moisturizer-like formula. So these are the kind of formulas I tend to like. And I just keep going until I've covered pretty much all of my face. But this stage is still messy. It's not blended. I'm not going to walk out the door like this. So there's two reasons why I like to do this step and why I like to do it with fingers. First of all, it spreads a very nice thin, even layer, as I have already mentioned. But what this also does is the warmth of your fingers is going to help blend whatever it is you're putting on. That's why I like to use, like, whenever I'm using like creams and liquids, like blushes and stuff, I also like to use my fingers because it just makes it so much easier and you actually need less product. This was 1.5 pumps. That's all I used. And I still have a little bit left on the back of my hand, so we'll see if we need a little bit more in a sec. And then I like to take the Sigma Multitasker brush, the F45, however. But for me, it doesn't really matter what kind of brush you're using. If it's like a really nice, dense brush, that's what's going to work best for this. You could use a beauty blender if you want to, but I wouldn't recommend that if you're using lightweight textures, because beauty blenders, when they're wet or dry, it doesn't really matter, but they will take away some of the coverage. So I feel that if you want to make sure that your foundation is still getting the coverage that is advertised, using a brush is much better. And don't go swiping like this, because that's when it gets streaky. You use the brush, and this is why it needs to be a dense brush, to sort of tap it in. And then around my jawline is where I will like drag it down, also here around the chin, just so there are no harsh lines, and that is at least... I always struggle a little bit around the mouth, then just using that. That's why I like this sort of shape, because you can use that edge around the nose, and then I just tap, 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 and then maybe blend it into the hairline just a touch. I've got some discoloration around my hairline that I can't really cover because it's covered by my hair, and because I'm lighter around this edge, it looks darker than it actually is. Oh well. I've got lots of baby hairs around this area. So this is pretty much all I do to apply foundation. I feel this is enough. This is the level of coverage I want. There is still discoloration and things that are still visible that I would like to cover up next. And that's where the concealer comes in for me. So I'm going to use the same matching concealer from the same line. This is the Lifter concealer in shade 25. This is a little bit darker than the foundation is. So I think that will be nice to sort of even this out just a touch, because I do feel I look a little bit pale. Let me see what the shade is like. Oh, that's actually pretty nice and a little bit pinky almost. Like the doe foot of this as well. It's almost like a little pencil. Now, depending on what you need, what coverage you like, you can go to town with your concealer, but I have found that using less means there is less creasing. I want my foundation to do most of the work, so I just use, because I have some redness on my chin, so I just use it there, a little bit on my nose, then just a touch on the under eye. I know it's trending to put concealer here. I'm in my early 40s. I don't have too many lines and wrinkles yet, but this is the area of my eyes where I do get some concealer gathering throughout the day. So that is definitely an area that, you know, halfway through the day, if I'm in the bathroom at work, I'll just like tap it back in with a finger and I'm fine. But I know that's where I notice most of the creasing. So I do not put extra product there, because the more product you put on, the more it's going to sit into fine lines. So maybe don't do that. I have some darkness here that I like to cover, and then just the redness around my nose as well. And that's it. That's all I tend to do. Now, sometimes I use my foundation brush for that, but I have been using my Real Techniques setting brush. I've had this for years, and I just use that. This is a little wispier, and then I just use whatever it is that I've applied. Oh, this matches the foundation really well, actually. And I just sort of, again, use it in like a tapping motion. I'm about to like wash my brushes again, so things get streaky as well if your brushes aren't like the cleanest. So this weekend, I want to do some brush washing, I guess. So, and then I just, again, I use that little bit of concealer and really try to like blend it up. And then I blend that under eye concealer into the cheek concealer, just to get that going. And if I feel it's a little bit streaky or I want to sheer it out more, again, the warmth of your fingers is going to work really well. So I do like to like press it in with a finger around my nose and under eye area. And I just feel that that really helps to blend and smooth things out and really sort of have the concealer mesh with the foundation. And I try to stay away from applying too much down here. Because like I said, that's where I get the most creasing. And then just apply. But you can see that those couple of dots of foundation is all I use. I've got darkness in the inner corner, and I bring that up towards the brow bone because I've got pretty deep set eyes. So there's a lot of blueness down here. And again, I just use my finger to help sheer that out. And then just tap, tap, tap. This is how I get my makeup to last. Again, powder necessary depending on your skin type. I have dry skin, so also for powder, I don't really go to town. This is my Kosas Cloudset. We are really, really close to like making this pan even bigger. I've been working on the slightly higher parts of the pan. And again here, I like to smooth it out and just tap it on. There's a little bit here that I haven't blended very well. So I just take something on the brush, tap, tap, tap. Again, don't go rubbing it in because then you're going to mess up your foundation. Tapping motions are the best to get sheer layers, I find. And really all I do is apply powder where I've also applied concealer. So I don't set my entire face because I just feel that because I have dry skin, setting my entire face is just not a good look. So just the T-zone really is where I need that little bit of powder just to also like make it a little less shiny than it was. And I do think this looks really pretty. Like for a new product that I haven't played with before, I'm very happy with these. So that's pretty much the entire routine. I am going to be using powder cheek products. Since I have dry skin, I don't really have any experience with products like these fading on me. I know that that is an issue for some people. And if you were looking for tips on that, I'm afraid I'm just not the right person to share those with you because I never experienced my blush or bronzer or highlighter being eaten by my face. It just isn't. So let me finish the rest of my makeup and then we'll see with a wear test throughout the day how this will hold up. Hold up is the right term. I'm using the new Essence blush, in case you were wondering, the Soft Baked blush in Berry Bliss. I've been really loving this one. It does go a little bit intense. If you feel like you've got a little bit too much blush on, you can just use your foundation brush to temp it down. This is the only moment in my entire makeup routine that I grab a little like smaller mirror to see my eyeshadow more close up. But this is a great way to like do a quick check how everything's looking. And I feel like the foundation has now been on for a few minutes. I don't really see any oxidizing. It's not turning yellow. It still matches my neck. So I feel the shade is really good. There isn't too much creasing here as well. Like sometimes with some concealers, if they're very dewy and very creamy, I will get, after I've already powdered it, but I've done the rest of my makeup, I need to sit here and like tap it back in. And that's just the way, like if there's any sort of like creasing throughout the day, just use your fingers and gently like tap it and just sort of put it back into place that way. That's the best way to get rid of creasing. Your face moves. You're not going to prevent creasing, especially as you get a little bit older. I'm a teacher. I talk all day. My face moves around all day. I need my facial expressions as well to make clear to my students what it is I mean. So I definitely put my makeup through its paces, you could say, on a given day. So that's, we'll see how this holds up towards the end of the day. I'm going to throw on some eyeshadow and then I'll talk to you in a sec. All right, so the eye look is all done, and now I like to do a step that, again, does this truly help with making your makeup last? No, but I do feel it makes my makeup look better, and that's to use a setting spray. I know some people like to do this after every single step. I don't have time to wait for it to dry before I can move on to the next thing. So I always do it after I've done my eyeshadow, but I haven't put on my mascara or my lipstick yet. And it just works. And this is the Catrice Aqua Splash Grip Fixing Spray. It's okay. The Pretty Fresh by ColourPop is my favorite. So the makeup is all done. I'm going to be including a wear test here, so I hope to be able to film another clip as I come home from work and then another one before I take off my makeup so you can see and we can see together how this makeup wears throughout the day. All right, so here is what the makeup looks like. I think about 9 hours later or so. I stopped doing my makeup around like 8:30 in the morning. It is now 4:30, so it's 8 hours later. And here is how we're looking. No oxidation, as far as I can tell. It looks a little bit dry on my chin, but that's usually like my problem area around my nose and on my chin is where things tend to cake up, but no like bunching of the concealer, no bunching here. Like it's worn in, of course. I've been at work all day. I rode my bicycle to get to work and then to get back home. And I had a walk outside around lunchtime with a colleague. So I've been outside, I've been talking to people, I was in an intense meeting. My brain is absolutely killing me at the minute because it was a lot of thinking and it was very intense. But yeah, the makeup is makeuping about 8 hours later. So it survived a work day. Let's see how it survives the next couple of hours. So excuse the very tired face, but it's about 11:30 at night. So it's another 6 or 7 hours since I last talked to you, and I just wanted to quickly do another update before I take all of this makeup off to show you how it is worn. This makeup has now been on for about 15 hours or so. There's a little bit of wear and tear on my chin because I've been sitting on the couch watching the latest Louis Theroux documentary on Netflix like this, so that's why there's a little bit of wear and tear there, but I've been touching my face, but as you can see, no creasing. It's still on. Does it still look perfect? Of course not. It's makeup. I've got a face. My face moves around. I'm human. But I feel that for 15 hours of wear, it's gotten a little bit glowier in the T-zone, but that's about it. And other than that, I feel this makeup is still on very, very nicely. So if you wanted some tips on how to make sure your foundation lasts all day as well, then these were some of them. If you were looking for any of the other makeup products that I used in today's video and what they're called, everything will be listed in the description box down below, as well as the skincare items that you saw me use at the start of the video. If you missed the information on the screen, then all the links, well, I won't have links, but I will have the names of those products in the description box down below. Check back for more if you do want to see more makeup content by me. I make 4 videos a week over on this channel. If you want more by me, lifestyle, bookish, sort of other sort of content, fashion-y content as well, then check my other channel, which is Floating in Books. That is also linked in the description box down below. And there are some other links to my other social media in the description box as well. So if you want to follow me anywhere else, then you can. So thanks so much for watching me here today, and then I hope to see you again really, really soon in a new video. Bye-bye.